I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is an update on the criminal trial in Manhattan State Court, where the Trump Organization is a criminal defendant. You may recall this is the case where the Trump Organization chief financial officer, Allen Weisselberg, has previously pled guilty to 15, let me repeat that again, 15 felony counts for receiving improper off-the-books benefits and perks from the Trump organizations to try to defraud the IRS. In addition to Weisselberg, the Trump organization, not Donald Trump himself, but the Trump organization is a criminal defendant. Allen Weisselberg was the chief financial officer for the Trump organization. He's currently on paid leave as the chief financial officer of the Trump organization. And Allen Weisselberg is expected to be the star witness for the prosecution. His sentence for his felony convictions has been temporarily put off pending his testimony consistent with what he pled guilty to occurring during this criminal trial, to state that the Trump organization at the highest levels, which includes Donald Trump, was aware of the fraudulent schemes at issue, the fraudulent schemes to defraud tax authorities and to provide these improper benefits and perks. And then after Weisselberg testifies, his sentencing will take place after this criminal trial concludes. Monday marked the opening statements of the criminal trial, and there was a very lengthy jury selection process that took place because it was very hard to find jurors who didn't completely hate Donald Trump in New York. One of the processes in a trial is a stage in the trial called voir dire. And a voir dire means to speak the truth, and it's about finding a fair and impartial jury pool and jurors who will actually go in the jury box who don't harbor biases against particular parties going into it, in which they can't follow the law and that they can't put aside their biases and specifically follow the instructions by the judge. So it was very hard to find a jury pool here. Opening statements took place on Monday. The prosecution argued that Allen Weisselberg pled guilty to these 15 felony counts and that he would testify that the Trump organization was well aware of the scheme and that at every level and layer, the Trump organization knew what was taking place and engaged in this fraudulent scheme. On the other hand, the defense lawyer for the Trump organization said it was all Allen Weisselberg's fault. Allen Weisselberg covered this up. This was purely a fraudulent scheme by Weisselberg, and nobody at the Trump organization knew about it. And the defense argued Weisselberg is only going to testify that Trump and the Trump organization was aware of the scheme because he's been promised a more lenient sentence and he feels that pressure that he needs to testify, but that you shouldn't believe what he is going to say and what he's going to testify. Notably, who is not going to testify because he is a coward is Donald Trump. And if Trump wanted to show up and try to tell the jury specifically what that defense lawyer was arguing, I'm sure that would be evidence that the jurors would want to hear. But of course, Trump would be perjuring himself, and he's too cowardly to actually take the stand. So he's not going to take the stand. And so that was the opening arguments. Then the first witness who was called by the prosecution, someone by the name of Jeffrey S. McConey. Jeffrey S. McConey was the Trump organization and is the Trump organization's controller and has a vice president role. And one of the unexpected things, although in this climate this happens frequently in trials that I'm involved in and across the country, is on Monday, McConey started looking a little sick during his testimony. On Tuesday morning's testimony, he like continued to cough, and he was almost like coughing on the judge's face. And lots of people were wondering, why is this individual continuing to cough? The judge is named Justice Juan Merchan. Was asking him if he felt okay during a lunch break. This witness, McConey, started feeling even worse and tested, and turns out that he tested positive for COVID. So the judge had to call all the jurors back in, let all of the jurors know that they were going to be sent home. And so trial has been delayed until next Monday, assuming no one else in the jury or judge or lawyers test positive. But this is going to delay the proceedings here. And look, this is not uncommon. We see this in courtrooms across the country right now, because COVID is still certainly here and prevalent and very, very, very dangerous. And this was something that, again, unexpected for the lawyers, but something that I guess we've come to realize can take place in trials like this. Now, one of the things that McConey had testified before he tested positive for COVID, though, was that the Trump organization seemed to be aware of the benefits that were being taken by Weisselberg, that it was not like a secret. He tried to, because McConey still works at the Trump organization, so was still trying to kind of thread the line of not throwing the company under the bus. And Weisselberg is on paid leave from the company, so trying to portray Weisselberg as trying to take these benefits for his own self-interest. But when confronted with the exhibits, which show that Trump would sign off on these things, which there is no higher officer at the Trump organization than Trump, McConey did have to at least concede that the Trump and Trump organization were aware of these payments. But we will see more from McConey's testimony when he comes back next week. Now, one of the questions you may be asking is, well, what's the culpability here of the Trump organization, and is this case different than the Tish James case, and like what's going on? Well, first, this is different than the Tish James case. Tish James, the Attorney General of the state of New York, she has brought a civil lawsuit through her powers as the Attorney General, seeking at least $250 million in damages for the fraudulent valuations that Donald Trump, his adult children, the Trump organization, Weisselberg, and others were involved in, to inflate or deflate the valuations of properties to get improper benefits from lenders and tax authorities and insurance companies and things like that. So that is what is being investigated, and what Tish James filed a lawsuit on as well. That was the case where Donald Trump pled the fifth over 400 times, and that is the case where Tish James has filed an emergency injunction motion to appoint an independent monitor to oversee all of Trump's financial filings and to make sure that Trump doesn't engage in fraudulent conveyances of assets. And that's set to be heard this week. And so we should have a ruling on whether an independent monitor will be placed within the Trump organization. That is before a different judge, a judge by the name of Arthur Engoron, and that is a judge who Trump has done many posts on, threatening on his social media platform in advance of this injunction hearing. But that is a civil case, that is not criminal. This is a criminal case brought by the Manhattan DA against the Trump organization, but not Donald Trump. Alvin Bragg, the district attorney of Manhattan, says that he is still open to investigating, and claims to be still investigating, other crimes that Donald Trump personally committed that are similar to what is being alleged in the civil lawsuit brought by the New York Attorney General. But this specific criminal case is about something different, and is about the improper benefits that were given off the books to employees of the Trump organizations, where Weisselberg pled guilty to these 15 felony counts already and agreed to testify that there was knowledge by the Trump organization of it and his role relative to Trump's role and the overall Trump organization's role in this fraudulent scheme. And so ultimately, if the Trump organization is found guilty here, if they become a criminally convicted organization, what does that mean? Well, a company can't itself go to jail. So in cases where there are companies as criminal defendants, they have to pay fines. And so it is a monetary penalty. The monetary penalty, though, and a company having the designation of being a felon as a company also would likely mean, almost certainly, that it would violate mostly all of its loan covenants that would basically say that loans would accelerate or that lenders would no longer participate in any relationship with a company that is a felon. So it would have devastating consequences there for Trump's ability to receive loans, but he already has lots of issues with dealing with legitimate lenders at this point to get loans. But also one of the consequences here too is, as we get this testimony under oath about Trump's direct involvement and perhaps more information about the processes and procedures that Donald Trump himself utilizes within the Trump organization through the testimony of Weisselberg, which will be bombshell testimony when it's received, the question then becomes, is there any other crimes that still exist within the current statute of limitations to prosecute? And there are some crimes that certainly are for these financial dealings, to which Alvin Bragg could then charge Donald Trump directly for those specific crimes. One thing to mention, too, about the Tish James, New York Attorney General, civil lawsuit, she also referred her findings through her investigation and the special proceeding that predated the filing of her lawsuit to prosecutors in the Southern District of New York for criminal prosecution. They haven't acted on that yet, but they now have access to that information about Trump's fraudulent valuations there. So a lot going on right there, but that's the update right now. So the Trump trial is now temporarily delayed, pending determination on if everyone's healthy, if there's no positive COVID cases amongst the jurors, the lawyers, and the judge. But we will keep you updated here with this and more developments on the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button right now. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your support. In addition, you can help us out by becoming a member of our Patreon page, patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Lots of great memberships with exclusive content, but most importantly, help grow this independent media channel. We're not funded by any outside investors at all. We are purely fueled by democracy and powered by you. So if you can join one of those memberships, we would so appreciate it. Help grow this platform. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.